Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to break down the actuarial control cycle. Now, this is the fundamental framework every actuary uses, but really mastering its nuances, that's what separates the pros. So here it is, the actuarial control cycle, or ACC for short. I want you to think of it like an essential compass for navigating, all that financial uncertainty we deal with. It's not just some static checklist you tick off. No, it's a living, breathing process we use to define a problem, build a solution, and, this part is absolutely key, monitor how that solution actually performs in the real world. That's how we learn and adapt. And let's be real, in today's world, regulation is everywhere, and it's always changing. That's exactly why a professional framework like the ACC isn't just a nice to have, it's completely non-negotiable. It's the very thing that keeps confidence in the financial system and, protects people from the fallout of badly assessed risks. So here's the plan for this explainer. We're going to walk through the three main stages of the cycle. And along the way, we'll even tackle a few past exam questions so you can see how this stuff gets tested. Then we'll wrap it all up with a super quick recap to make sure it all sticks. Okay, let's get into it. Step 1, specifying the problem. And honestly, this is the most critical stage of the whole cycle. If you mess this up, everything that follows is built on a shaky foundation. So yeah, this part is super important. This first step is all about digging deep. I'm serious. Before you even think about touching a calculator, you have to map out the entire landscape of the problem. And that doesn't just mean listening to what your client asks for. It means looking at the bigger picture, the whole environment, and every single risk faced by every single stakeholder. Right, so it's never, ever just about what the client says they want. As an actuary, you have a professional duty to look beyond that initial request. You've got to independently get your head around the entire commercial and economic world they're operating in. A massive part of this is figuring out the client's risk appetite. How much risk are they really willing to take on to hit their targets? That single question becomes the North Star for the whole project. And you have to juggle the needs of all these different groups. And trust me, their interests often clash. Think about it. Shareholders are pushing for maximum profit, which could mean jacking up prices. But customers, they want the best possible value. And then you've got regulators who are watching to make sure everything's fair and the company won't go bust. This is exactly where a big picture view, what we call enterprise risk management, or ERM, is so vital. It's all about understanding how these different risks play off each other across the whole company. Here's a really crucial point. You can't just sit back and wait for the client to give you all the information. You absolutely have to be proactive. That means you're out there independently digging through public documents, company accounts, industry reports, all those regulatory filings to piece together the full story before you even start your detailed analysis. Okay, let's put this into practice. Here's a question from an old exam paper. It asked what advice an actuary could give a manufacturing company. So how would you tackle this? Well, your starting point is always the specify the problem stage. Look back at that stakeholder list. For employees, what risks are there besides just pensions? What about customers? Could there be product liability risks? And for the shareholders, what about the risk of business interruption? See, thinking like that is exactly how you start to build a really solid answer. So, once we've got that really deep 360-degree view of the problem, it's time to move on to the next stage, actually building a solution with a data-driven model. This is where we get into the really technical stuff. The actuary basically takes that problem we've defined and translates it into a mathematical and statistical model. You can think of this model as a kind of virtual sandbox. It's a place where we can build and stress test all sorts of potential strategies, whether we're pricing a brand new insurance product or figuring out a funding plan for a pension scheme. Now, developing a solution isn't just about winging it. It follows this very structured process. You start with a clear goal, you go through some really rigorous data validation, but hang on, look at step 3, set parameters and assumptions. This is where actuarial judgment is everything. Seriously, picking the right assumptions for things like mortality, inflation, or investment returns, that choice will literally define the outcome of the whole model. Okay, this is a really interesting part of the process. You've got a fundamental choice to make between two types of models. On one hand, you have a deterministic model. It's great for a quick, clear, best guess scenario. But if you're dealing with something complicated like guarantees or options, or you need to calculate regulatory capital for something like Solvency I, then a stochastic model is an absolute must. It doesn't just give you one answer. It gives you a whole range of possible outcomes. And that is essential for getting a handle on those nasty little tail risks. All right, another exam question for you. A life insurer is launching an enhanced annuity. The question is, discuss the impact of the wider external environment in pricing this product. So when you're building that pricing model, what external factors do you need to be thinking about? Let's connect it back to the first stage. How would demographic trends, like people living longer, change your mortality assumption? And what about the current interest rate environment? How does that affect your investment return assumption? You see, your answer has to build that bridge between the outside world and the numbers you plug into your model.
Okay, but let's remember, a model is just a forecast, right? The job isn't done once the solution is out there. Now we get to stage 3, and this is where reality bites. It's the feedback loop that makes this a true control cycle.
This whole stage really boils down to one simple, powerful question. Were our assumptions right? That's it. It's this ongoing process of collecting real-world data and holding it up against the assumptions we baked into the model. This, right here, is where theory slams into reality. And this is exactly what makes the ACC so incredibly powerful. This is not a one-and-done project. What you learn from monitoring feeds right back into stage 1. Let's say you see mortality rates improving way faster than you assumed for your annuity pricing. Well, guess what? Your problem has just changed. You have to go all the way back, re-specify the problem, tweak your model, and come up with a new solution. It's a never-ending loop of getting better. This table gives you a great real-world look at monitoring. What's cool here is you can see the different frequencies. Look, investment returns might be tracked daily, but expense levels, that's more of an annual checkup. It just goes to show you that monitoring isn't one single thing. It's a whole system, with different layers, all designed to give you a clear picture of what's happening over different timescales. Last question for you. It's about the data you're monitoring. How do you make sure it's actually any good? What kind of statistical tests would you run to prove that the way you've grouped your data, let's say by age or by smoker status, is actually meaningful and, big enough to be reliable? For a good answer here, you need to talk about things like homogeneity, credibility, and whether the data is appropriate. All right, let's pull all of this together. We're going to do a mega recap and then blast through some flashcards to really lock in these concepts. This is perfect for your final revision. So the big takeaway here is that the ACC is a loop. It's iterative. Monitoring informs the problem, which refines the solution, and the whole thing starts over. It is dynamic. It is not static. Never forget that. So let's boil it down. The ACC in 60 seconds. 1. Specify the problem. That's about understanding the whole environment and all the stakeholder risks. 2. Develop the solution. This is where you build your models to test strategies and price things. And 3. Monitor experience. You compare what really happens to your assumptions and feed those lessons right back to the beginning. That's the workflow. All right, time to burn these into your memory. First flashcard. The actuarial control cycle. What is it? It's the practical, iterative framework for spotting, analyzing, and managing risk to solve financial problems. Simple as that. Next up, Enterprise Risk Management, or ERM. Remember we talked about this? It's that big picture approach where you look at all the risks of a company together, not in separate silos. Why? Because it lets you see how they interact and maybe even get some benefits from diversification. And our last flashcard, a super important one from stage 1, risk appetite. This is that North Star we talked about. It's simply the amount and type of risk a company is willing to stomach to hit its goals. And you have to nail this down right at the very beginning when you're specifying the problem. So, I'll leave you with this final thought as you continue your studies. We know the ACC is a powerful tool for the risks we understand today. But what about tomorrow? How does the cycle need to adapt to handle massive, emerging uncertainties like climate change, cyber threats, or the explosion of AI? That, right there, is the next big challenge.